Hi, this is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle, and today we're going to work on the reel that it seems everybody wants to see. This is a massive Penn Senator 16-0 fishing reel. I think it was featured in Jaws. This one belongs to Adam. Adam did a beautiful job of cleaning this reel up, and he asked me to service the reel, and he also asked me to change out the original drag washers with a new set of drag washers, so we're going to do that as part of the service. So one of the things that you need to know about these Penn Senators is that the internals of this reel are very similar across the board. That was one of the things that was kind of interesting within the Penn design. They came up with a good, efficient design, and well, it just became a matter of scale as opposed to changing things as the reels got bigger. So you'll see there's a design on a very small reel. This one's from a Penn Surfmaster 200, a relatively small reel. You'll notice we have a bridge plate, a pinion gear, a jack. We have an eccentric that moves that pinion gear in and out for free spool and the like. You'll see as you get into the Senator line, this is a 4.0 Senator, but we have the same thing, a bridge, a pinion gear, a jack, an eccentric lever that's going to pull that in. And when we open up the big boy here, you're going to find that, well, it's got pretty much the same thing. Some things are different. You can service this drag stack from the exterior. Of course, all of the pieces and parts are bigger, but that's okay. And we'll show you how to get this one done, and we'll get this back to Adam to go service. Adam asked what the age on the reel is. I'm going to kind of defer a little bit to our community out there. They seem to be very good. The reel started production around 1940, and it ran through about the 1980s, if I remember. It might have been early 1990s. As I'm looking at the handle here, this is a kind of got that marble striated type of a handle. It's a combination of gold and green on it, and my guess on that one says probably the 50s or 60s. It kind of became more generic knobs later on, and lost some of that character kind of stuff. But other than that, I really can't say. I need to do a little bit more work on it, and if any of the folks out there, I know Armando seems to be one of the fellows that knows a lot about these reels. If somebody can pin this down a little bit more, I would certainly appreciate it. Okay, we're going to start by getting this side plate off, and I don't have a wide angle lens. That's maybe one of the interesting points about this. Usually I have to struggle to do a close-up. Right now I got to struggle to get everything in the picture. Well, we're going to remove the handle first. I removed the set screw, and as I'm taking off the exterior parts, I want to encourage you to go ahead and subscribe to my channel. If you do subscribe to my channel, then please go ahead after that and hit the notification button. That will tell you when I post the videos. And you can choose which ones you like. I work on everything from these super huge trolling reels to bait casters, freshwater reels, doesn't really matter, spinning reels, and so on. This handle just kind of rocked up, but if you had any issue with the handle, you could simply lever the star adjuster by turning it backwards, and that will push this up. Whatever you do, don't try and force anything. Well, Adam did a beautiful job of cleaning up, didn't get under that little nut there, so we're going to use a little bit of steel wool. It's 4.0 steel wool. It's a polishing grade steel wool. And we're just going to run that here just to get maybe some of the points a little bit cleaner. This Senator reel, I believe, was featured in Jaws. It was the biggest reel in the Senator line. It's the 16-0. They did make the Senators everywhere from a 1.0 Senator, which looked very much like a Penn Long Beach reel, to very popular 3.0 and 4.0 size Senators, and then right up onto the bigger reels for the ocean. They kind of started at the 4.0, and they went right up through 4.0, 6.0, 9.0, 10, 12, 14, and 16. This one holds 1,000 yards of 130-pound monofilament. And a lot of the times these reels came with the original braid. And that kind of tells you a little bit. If you find braid on the thing, well, braid was predominant up through the 1960s when the monofilament started to take over. And it's kind of interesting as you date these things. I can remember going fishing with my dad My dad had an old J.A. Cokes reel with braid on it. And, well, in the 60s, when I was a younger child, didn't think much about it. But as I think about it today, well, that was standard fishing line at the time. We had a little bit of a different reel with a monofilament on it. Monofilament became popular in the 60s, but it was really around since the 40s, but just not as popular as the braided lines. And of course, if you look today, well, modern day braids, not linen or Dacron, have pretty much taken their place. After all of it, these years, it's still a very, very popular fishing line, and this one holds a lot. Well, that's a beautiful star adjuster. And normally I will tell you, I put all my pieces and parts into a parts tray. Well, some of these are just going to be huge, but I will make sure all of the screws and all of the small pieces and parts go in there. I also recommend that as you do these types of reels, that you go ahead and take pictures along the way. The pictures will tell you the sequence of the pieces. Of course, you can find that on a schematic diagram as well, but take pictures, that way you know where the pieces and parts came from, and when it's time to reinstall, you can go ahead and get them. Here is a shield that has got a little bit of a rubber piece to it here, which is going to keep some of the water out, and this is where you know where the cleaning stopped, and that's okay. Adam basically told me, look, I want to get you to do the internal servicing on this, and please go ahead and do that. Well, one of the things he had asked about was for me to upgrade the drag system. This has got the original drag washers in it. I call them brake asbestos materials kind of things. I'm not sure exactly what it is. Let's see if I can get one of these off to show you. They're just very big, heavy, and that coating there right on the outside of this kind of looks like brake material, and it's very thick kind of pieces. One of the things that the drag upgrade is going to do is it's going to increase the max drag in this reel, because I believe the way that this is set up, you're going to have a 6-washer system, and the way that the new ones come in are going to be a 9-washer system or a 10-washer system. Max drag is a function of area, surface area, and with 9 drags you get more surface area than 6. You would get more max drag. All right, let's get over to the wrist busting portion of this program. We're going to take off all of the screws. Now, a lot of folks that do these YouTube videos, they kind of cut to the chase. They come back in about 3 seconds and show you all the screws out. You know what? I moderate these as I talk, and if you want to just see it when all the screws are out, just fast forward. I don't mind. But generally, if something will happen here that I'll make a comment on, and maybe it would be missed if otherwise. I'm taking off all the screws. I'm laying them right on my table, and I want to make sure that they're all the same size. Interesting to note on this reel, you have a double set of lugs. You have a top lug and you have a bottom lug. Those are harness lugs that you kind of put on your belt and over your shoulders or behind your back, and those harnesses help you hold the reel and the rod, giving you a little bit of additional leverage as you're fighting the big fish. Those lugs are right on the smaller size Senators. Here's a 4.0 Senator that has the lug in there as well. But these are the ones, it's funny when you watch these shows like Wicked Tuna and the others, it makes it look like the fight is about 15 minutes for the fish, and no, it's not. Big fish, you're probably fighting 2 hours. If you know Jaws, they probably fought it all day. And, well, you get tired and you need the leverage. You can't hold a pole against the big fish very successfully for very long. All right, well, one of the reasons I lay these on the table is to make sure that they're all the same size. And I know it, but I wanted to show you they're not the same size. There are 3 screws in this reel that are shorter. Those 3 screws belong in the reel seat. And the reel seat is the piece that attaches the reel to the pole. All right, this is the last one, so I'm going to hold the side plate while I take that last screw out. and now everything should just come off. This is massive, but don't be afraid just based on size. This is what I was talking about from a size standpoint. You have a smaller screw, the 3 of those belong in the reel seat, and then you have a longer screw which goes in the posts. All right, before I do anything, we're going to take all of these off of the table, put them in the parts tray so that we don't lose them. Well, here's the thing we were talking about before. Isn't that interesting? Here's a reel that's designed for inshore, probably holds 100 yards or 150 yards of line, and doesn't it look the same, right? So Penn came up with a great design, and well, they stuck to it. Smallest reel, or one of the smaller reels, right up to the larger reel. Bridge, pinion gear, jack, eccentric gear. Move the eccentric gear, it pulls the pinion gear in. Pinion gear in releases the spool and goes into free spool. All right, well, here's the other part of that stack. It's falling out. And as I mentioned, this drag set, if we didn't need to service the reel, this drag set could go right back in as a service from the outside. And looks like we have 4 of the larger, what I call asbestos reels here. And it looks like, from what I'm seeing here, when I took this one off, we had the 2 metals. That doesn't look right. It looks like we have 2 of the pieces, so it would go this way. Maybe it is right. Yep, it's right. Okay. All right, good to note. All right, so here's your cavity for your main gear, and we're going to take the rest of the assembly off now so that we can service that. If you have any questions on this reel or any reel in particular, it doesn't even have to be a Penn reel, just any reel in particular, just leave it in the comments section. I'll try and get you an answer to it if I know the answer. And if I don't know the answer, I know a lot, but I don't know everything, that's for sure. But if I don't know the answer, I'll try and point you in the right direction. Notice that there's 2 different screws as we take them out. There's a partially threaded screw, and there's a fully threaded screw. The fully threaded screws belong on the bottom. The partially threaded screws, as you see, will be going through a spring, so they keep a smooth section of that spool so that the spring does not catch on that. This is the last of the bridge screws. I'm holding that bridge in with my hand. You can see underneath here. I'm going to remove those, put those into the parts tray. Let's turn this over. Now you can see I'm holding that. I want to move this jack up to release everything, and the rest of this now should come out. So let's just go ahead and see if we can't push the whole bridge off. Notice that big spring. That big spring goes right here. That's what's going to control your anti-reverse dog. Okay, once you remove that bridge assembly, let's take that dog off. We already got that spring out of the way. So going back to the aging on this reel, they used flat springs as part of the anti-reverse dog up through the 50s. It wouldn't surprise me if this one has a spring in it, so I'm thinking that we probably have a reel here from the 60s. All right, take that out. I'm going to push down on that pinion gear and remove the jack. I'm going to pull the yoke and the pinion gear. Look at the size of that pinion gear. Wow. The 2 springs that are the yoke springs. Those will go into my tray as well. And now we should be able to push this main gear out. And we just have a little bit of cleaning up to do. I hope that's just kind of dirt in there. Yeah, that's just dirt. There's some kind of something going on in there, probably from the last time the reel was serviced. It kind of looks like a piece of felt or something. But let's get that out of the way. And so much of the service of a reel is nothing more than just simply cleaning it all up, checking and inspecting the pieces of parts, and well, putting it back together again. There's one more washer in here. I just want to tap that out. We're a little bit stuck on that one, so let's see if we can't use a little pick or something to get that out. We're going to replace these so it's not as important. There we go. I think I almost had it there. There we go. There's one more there. Oh, that's out as well. That's the one I was looking for that was missing in that stack and why it seemed to be an odd count there. Let's do some cleaning. We're going to use a penetrating oil to work down on all the old greases in there. This isn't terribly messed up underneath. There's enough. It was the right time for Adam to call for this to be serviced. And I don't know what his intentions are. I don't know if this is going to sit on a shelf and just be a beautiful display of the technology, or if this one's going fishing again. I think it's going fishing again. Why would we replace the drag washers if it wasn't going to be taken out and go do some sharking or whatever? So these reels pretty much got obsoleted. They ran through the, like I said, the late 80s or the early 90s. I'd have to go back and actually do a look-see on that. But they got obsoleted by the more interesting lever drag reels and braid. So you don't need 130-pound monofilament, which is going to take up a huge amount of real estate on that spool, when you have braid, which is as strong and not nearly as dense or thick. So people were realizing I got a double harness I need here to run this thing. It's tiring. It's very heavy to fish that reel when there's a fish on and you're fighting it for 2 hours. And they started going to things like the Penn International 50s and the like. And that kind of replaced these. All right, I just flooded the bearing. I checked that bearing. It's running fine. Flooded it with oil. I'm just going to set that off to the side for a moment. I take all these pieces and put them off to the side. Let's come on over and clean the yoke on this. And to clean the yoke, I use a hard bristle brush and possibly some steel wool. I like to do the least amount possible in terms of abrasiveness. And this one should be fine. This is a 4.0 steel wool, which is a polishing steel wool. It's not going to leave any kind of damage or anything on the metals, but it is going to get the other pieces out of it. Very nice. All right. As I mentioned, this is the largest one. You have the 14.0, the 12.0, and the 10.0, which are also big saltwater class reels. But this is the biggest one. And quite interestingly, most of the design elements in this reel are nearly the same. It's really about the size of the spool and capacities. The design, well, if you've got one of the other reels, you don't have to worry too much. Look at the size of this thing. Wow. I don't know, it looks like military industrial grade kind of stuff, right? I don't think this pinion gear will ever deteriorate. Credit to Penn for using the right materials. We're going to use a bristle brush. We're going to pull through all of those gaps. And then, as you can see, I'm scraping it towards the paper towel because I want anything that's in there, and there's nothing in here, but I'm doing this more as a demonstration as well. But I want to make sure all those channels are cleared so that I don't have rough operation when I return this to service. So it might just be one little, yep, there's one little something there. And then I'm just going to finish that by running a pick through here, and you can see there's some little stuff on the bottom. This is almost like a felt. I'm thinking what it possibly could be is some deterioration in the old drag washers. That would be my thought. All right. Almost there now. Yep, we're done. Okay, the internal slot is clean, the outside is clean. We can go ahead and start the reassembly of this, interestingly enough. We're going to take fishing reel grease. I'm going to use Penn Precision Reel Grease for this. I'm going to make sure we get a healthy dose of grease across this pinion gear. I'll have to go back and check the gear ratio on this. Because this pinion gear is so big, it's telling me that the gear ratio is relatively small. But the torque on this thing has just got to be crazy. You can pull up Davy Jones' locker with it if you will. All right, that pinion gear is out of the way. I'm going to do the same thing here. We want to get a nice coating of grease onto the collar of the yoke. It's called a yoke just because, well, it looks like an oxen's yoke, right? Put that on. Remember when we did this, this is the side facing the spool. I'm going to go ahead and grab the two barrel springs. Those two springs go in the cavity of the side plate, just like that. One on each side. Yoke goes in next. Like that. And then we put a little bit of grease onto the eccentric. Press down on the yoke. Guide the jack over the stud. And just seat it like that. So it's kind of hanging in space right now. There's nothing holding it underneath here. And you're holding your springs down with the tail of the jack on both sides. And you just set that off to the side for a moment while we service the bridge. Just going to take that paper towel, clean that up. I like to wipe the grease off of my brush occasionally. That way I don't transfer any bad stuff over to the new section. And now we want to take this off. This is your gear sleeve. Hopefully we're going to just be able to push this out. If not, we might have to knock it out. But there is a pin here. And it looks like it wants to get knocked out. So I'm going to just pause for a moment. I got to tap it out, and I have to do that off camera. Okay, to knock that pin off, I got to take it off because offline because this thing spins when you try to knock it. But you need a pin, an awl or something. It's relatively heavy steel so it doesn't bend. Line it up on one side of the hole and then knock it through like that. You'll probably knock it out all the way, and then once you do that you can slide it up, and now you can see why you wanted to take that sleeve off. This sleeve has got a lot of dirt and old grease on it, and as part of this you want to make sure all of that gets cleaned. We're going to start by some penetrating oil. I'm going to use a paper towel first to see what I can just wipe off. Wipe a lot of that off. So again, I'd like to try and stay with the least aggressive cleaning method as I can. And then after a while, if you can't get it with that, the next step would be a kitchen scrubby, kind of a green pad, if you will. And then you can use that polishing steel wool, but don't go anything aggressive. Don't put any coarse sandpapers or anything in there. That's just going to scar it. It's going to have a detrimental effect on the performance of the reel. All right, we're almost done there. And then I want to use that steel wool to clean up the old greases and the like on that shaft. So if I'm going in and out of focus or whatever, folks, I gotta apologize. This is one big old reel, and well, quite honestly, I just don't have enough bandwidth in this camera here. But hopefully you're seeing most of what it is that I'm doing. All right, I want to reinstall this then. I want to take a brush and get some grease onto that shaft. Looks like there's a little bit behind it here. Slide that over. And now I'm going to have to tap this back in. I'm using a dead blow hammer here. Again, this may be off camera as well, and if it is, I'm going to apologize. Some things just aren't fit for this, and then I've got to just grab the channel lock pliers here to pull that little tip in. Because that's resting over the shoulder. Okay, I pulled it in with the channel lock pliers. Very important, you can't have it proud on either side of that shaft. All right, we're over to our main gear. This is where we're going to do the replacement. And one of the things I want to do, see, there appears to be a little bit of just kind of staining on here. That may or may not clean up. If I can get it cleaned up, I want to get it cleaned up. Again, anything that's residual and hanging around can have an effect on the performance of the reel. So if we can do this, let's do this. So this was sent in by Adam. If you have a fishing reel that you've been watching my videos on, or maybe you realize that there's something that needs to be serviced on it, maybe it's broken, and maybe you just are not up to the task, I do repair fishing reels by mail, and if you contact me using the information on the business card that follows, please send me an email, and I will be happy to provide you with that service and repair information. All right, well, this one's cleaning up nicely. It just takes a little bit of elbow grease to get it done, but it is getting done. All right, good. I'm going to do the same thing here that we just did with the pinion gear. We're going to use that hard bristle brush to pull through, let the debris land on the paper towel. And again, I get the same thing here that I had on the other side. It seems to be almost like a felt. So I'm going to just say that that's part of the old drag washers. Maybe they just got worn down in the battle. And we'll just pull those out. And that's pretty clean. I did the same thing with my pick. Just kind of come through to get that last piece out of there. A beautifully manufactured reel. So if this one was discontinued in the 80s, let's just say chances are this reel is at least 25 years old. From what we saw on the handle side, it could be as old as 50 years, maybe a little more even. That spring tells us it probably was made in the 60s or later. Beyond that, it's hard to tell. There is an etched side plate on it. I don't know if they went to a flat side plate that did not have that trolling boat etched scenery in there. Not sure. But those are all clues in terms of how you can do the dating on these Penn reels. All right, well, they're all clean now. Beautiful. We're going to go ahead and we're going to do that drag upgrade that Adam requested. I do need to buff off the back of this first. All right, and we're going to open up that pack, see what we have here. So this is the replacement set of drag washers. And it's massive. They gave me a new collar washer, so we're going to use that. I'm going to take the old one off. Probably could have done that better when it was off the reel, but so be it. Wow. All right. New washer goes right in its place. And now I think we have 6 and 7. Wow. There's a lot of drag washers in this. But again, when we're looking at the max drag, we know that the max drag on this one is going to be greatly improved. All right. I think I'm going to put the grease on the gears, put the gear onto the main shaft, put the drag washers in, and keep moving along on the servicing of this. So the only thing with this, other than it being bigger, is that it just takes a little bit more time to service them. But if you're following the basic tenets of this one, well, you can service just about any of these Penn conventional reels within reason. I mean, some of the things are a little bit different, but nothing dramatic. And again, these could be changed from the outside. Well, these are HT100 drag washers. It's Penn's version of a Carbon-Tex. You can put these in dry, or you can put them in with a little bit of dry grease. That's what I prefer to do. It just helps last longer. I kind of dip them in the grease. I use my gloved hand as a tool. You want to wipe it off. If you have done that, you want to wipe it off just so that you get a coating of it on there, but that you can still see the hash marks on there, if you will. First one in is going to be a metal one. Notice that the slots on this one do not go all the way down for those eared washers. So you need to make sure that you can clear those slots when you are servicing the drags. If you put one of these in and don't clear it, well, and this is a good point here. I'm just noticing that that one's not going to clear, so we're going to have to double this up with the round washer next. Those are called keyed washers. But if I had tried to put that eared washer in next, well, it would bottom out on that groove and you wouldn't have it seating properly. Now we can put the eared washer in, and just as I doubled up the two metal, I'm going to go ahead and double up the two eared washers as well. So again, we're just continuing to do the same basic service here, putting some dry grease on, wiping it clean, installing. I'm going to go put that second eared washer right in there. Usually you would alternate a keyed washer with an eared washer. In this case, because of that groove that does not go all the way down to the base of that main gear, and this is an upgraded set, we're going to just have to kind of use some, what do they call it, management discretion, I guess, huh? Well, we only have two more of these left. So we just put a keyed washer in, so it's time for an eared washer now. After we put that one in, here's your eared washer. And then we got one more up top here. Put that back in. Put the keyed washer back on. And I believe in all of this, I'm just going to go check, I believe that I do have an end washer in this. So we're going to have to see if this comes into play. I'm just laying this up and making sure here. Yeah, there's an extra metal one that goes up top, a cap washer, so I'm going to use this. We may not need it, but I'm going to use it for now. My concern is if I don't use this, that the drag stack will not be deep enough. All right, wow. Sometimes you probably should just come up for air. All right, well, this is the install part of the program now. I got to watch this now, because when I go to put this into the case, what may happen is that all of those washers fall out of the front, because as we mentioned, this can be done by moving this to the front and then reinstalling. We're going to take our whole bridge assembly, we're going to put that in, and push down on the pinion gear and hold it like that so that we can have access. I'm trying to hold those washers in place. I'm going to push all of that down. I'm going to get our anti-reverse dog. I'm going to load the anti-reverse dog into the carrier. And if this is hard to see, we'll apologize right up front. This is hard to do for the camera and for the service here. There's a little bit of grease on the back I'm trying to knock off while I'm holding everything else together here. All right, here we go. That anti-reverse dog is going to go in. And now we need the spring, which is going to compress that anti-reverse dog. Okay, with the spring set, we turn our attention to the front so we can lock this bridge in. This requires a lot of dexterity that I'm not really sure I even have at the moment, but fully threaded screws go below. Try and get that one started. Partially threaded ones go above. There's the 4 of those. Seems like I've got it. We'll turn this over and show you what we did in a moment here. I'm trying to do a couple of things. I've been wrestling the darn washers here, trying to make sure they don't fall out. And again, I think you can probably just put this whole main gear in without doing that. I chose to looking for the threaded screw. Here you go. I put one of the threaded screws in the wrong position. I believe it's this one, so let's back that out. Gotta pay attention all the time, otherwise you'll make these kinds of minor errors. Yep, that belongs up top there. The threaded one belongs below here. Don't worry that the bearing is slipped out of the side case a little bit. It'll slip right back in. Now we'll tighten up the last one on this side. And I've left these all just a little bit loose because you want to make sure that you get all of these tightened as you're working through the assembly. Alright, that one. This one. If you're worried about the bearing, go ahead and take that same little punch thing that you had. You can square it up and get it back into its case, just like that. Alright, okay. Well, that's gone a long way towards getting to where we need to get to. The next thing I want to put on then is this little shield. Kind of hold everything in there. And I can put on the little wavy washer was next. And our star adjuster. And we're kind of coming full circle now. As I mentioned, it's not much different than what doing the bigger ones. The only difference here would be the amount of effort required on some of the bigger parts. And then this is the last part. That's going to be that handle washer. That's actually going to go on the top side of the handle. Yep. All right, let's grab this side for a moment. We haven't done anything over here. Might as well just do the last bit of cleaning on this bearing. Clean the side plate out. There's a little bit of roughness in here. Again, I know Adam couldn't get in here for that. Looks like a little sand track or something. We'll take care of that. I'm just running the blade of a screwdriver, but don't think I'm trying to beat it up. I'm very easy with it. Oil that bearing, just like we flooded the other one. Oh, man, that's a barbell for a spool there, huh? Wow, that's a big one. Spool goes inside. I can grab our side plate. Get a little bit of grease onto the pinion shaft, or spool shaft. Side plate goes on next. Okay, so I just shut the video off for a moment because you didn't need to see me do all of these screws, but as I mentioned earlier, the screws, the long screws go into the cross posts, the short screws go into the reel seat. We took them all out. We were kind of narrating on the way in. Well, they're simply the reverse process. We're almost at the point now where it's time to wrap this thing up. You want to just make sure that they're all tightened. You don't need to leave them loose. If you leave them loose, boat vibration will shake them loose even further, and the next thing you know, they're gone. All right, that's that. We have a handle, a beautiful handle with that. Now, if we didn't grease that shaft, if we didn't remove the gear sleeve there, you would put grease in it this time. This one is less. I've noticed that the stack is just a little bit lower than the original profile. But so be it. This little washer goes next. That's because the profile on those carbon fiber washers are so much less. And we do have room there. We could actually throw another washer or two in there if we so chose. Let's just put this back together for now. I may throw another washer in there. Right now, let's just put this back together so everybody can see that it works. And then we can go from there. Remember, these drags are accessible from the outside, which gives you the ability to go do that without taking the whole reel apart again. All right. Tie down nut, time for a test. Okay, nothing left then to do but give it a test. Everything has been reassembled. You saw how this reel comes apart. You saw how the reel kind of mimics even the smallest of the Penn reels in terms of design, just bigger parts, more durable, and certainly a lot more capacity. Well, here we go. Just take a crank. Well, let's spin it first. We'll take the reel and free spool, and we'll notice that those ball bearings are doing just a beautiful job of keeping that arbor and reel spinning with little or no effort. And now let's put that into gear. Let's give it a crank. And we are off and we are running. That's a nice loud anti-reverse click. And we, of course, we want to make sure that the drags are holding, and they are. And when you're not using the reel, back the star adjuster off to take the pressure off the drags so that they don't wear prematurely. So that's it. That's your Penn 16.0 Senator. A big reel, first made in the 1940s, discontinued in the 1980s. 1,000-yard capacity, 130 yards, 130-pound monofilament test. A beautiful example of fine American engineering. So to all who have stayed with me so far, thank you. To the first responders and essential personnel, thanks for all you are doing to keep us safe during the pandemic. And to everyone, please stay safe, stay well, and stay watching. This is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle. Have a great day.